Welcome to the Gufs Circa 2020. This podcast will cover 30 years of historical music, Wisconsin's favorite sons, and all the behind-the-scenes stories that you've ever wanted to know. Along with us today is Goran from the Gufs, who's going to help us narrate this story as we move along. The premise behind this podcast is to allow the Gufs to tell you where they started from, talk about the albums, talk about the songs, embarrassing moments, stories behind anything you ever wanted to know. So as we move along with this podcast, please feel free to chime in, ask questions. Goran's here to field anything. We're hoping to get some cameos from some of the other members as well. Be live performances. We've got it all. So to get it started off, Goran, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, man.
How are things down in Nashville tonight?
Things are kind of crazy.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. Kids, Getting the kids in bed, getting ready for the day.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that I'm actually in Chicago. So.
Well, you are in Chicago.
Yeah, I'm in Chicago.
You're close. I thought you were back home.
So I go back and forth every week. So it's Chicago for a few days, and then Nashville for a few days.
Well, I knew you were doing that a while back. I wasn't quite sure that you were still up on that. So talking just specifically to you, what has transpired since 2006? I mean, tell us about real life and how things have been going for you besides putting the kids to bed. I mean, what else is new in the world? We've seen a couple singles. Obviously, you have Hero that just been released. What else has been going on in your world?
Just decided in 2012 to move the family down to Nashville just for a lifestyle change and maybe get back at music. And I owe that move for it's what sparked a desire to want to keep writing and to get back into things. So if we didn't go down there, there wouldn't be much happening after 2006, 2008. In 2006, we put out A Different Sea, which was one of my favorites, and it was written so completely different than how it used to be. Back in the day, we'd be in a room, we'd be hashing out ideas and just vibing off of jams and seeing where things went. Like songs like Crash started with just a jam and took it to another level. But in 2006, when we decided to put out A Different Sea, it was different. We were in 4 different states. We were without a record deal. And we had to come at writing a little bit differently. So I did a lot of writing, here in Chicago, and then we passed tapes and emails and stuff around and got together in Milwaukee and ended up recording with Kevin Circa, who's a great producer in town, and wrote, I think, a really kind of positive, cool album. And it was more of a tribute to our fans. So that took us to 2008, where we played with the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra, which was, a highlight of our careers. And then 2010, I think we played our last Summerfest show. So not a lot going on. And it seems like over the last few years, because of that move down to Nashville, where I felt re-inspired to kind of write, and got a publishing deal down there. So started just writing good songs and trying to write songs that maybe weren't Guff songs, but songs that my publisher, Dan Hodges, down in Nashville, could pitch to other people. So that kind of inspired me to maybe put some of that music out. So in 2018, all of a sudden I'm putting out a record under a Nashville sky, just to let people know that I was still being creative. And the guys, caught wind of it and said, it's not Guff's music. I'm kind of a pop guy, AM Gold, Barry Manilow, Journey kind of loving guy. So that's my soft side. But, they're great songs, well-written songs, great stories. And, that turns into us doing a 30-year reunion show at the Pabst, which 2 nights packed. It was amazing. And then, all of a sudden, hey, let's write a new song. And then Hero comes out. And, Morgan and I have always been trying to play acoustically. So it's the last 14 years has been not a lot going on. It seems like in the last 2 years we've created more music than we have in the last 20. So it feels good to be back. It's great that people still care about what we do, and it's just a different chapter. We're doing rock and roll and the band a little bit differently because now we all have kids and lives and jobs, and music now has been more of a hobby, even though it's still it runs deep in our hearts and in our souls. So I'm glad that you guys still care about us. And I always said, as long as there's one person out there, I'll come out and play to you. And,
Well, you did that a little over a week ago in Sheboygan. That was Gorn and Morgan show. So I'm trying to remember how long that had been before you had performed live in front of an audience. I thought it was quite some time due to COVID and things like that. So how did that feel? What was the time frame getting back on stage? I was there, thought it was a great show, obviously. Tell us kind of about that feeling of getting back in front of people, getting back in front of the fans, playing some of the songs, playing some of your own stuff. Sheboygan was a great show. I mean, that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thanks. It's like what led up to that was 6 months of just a weird, crazy time being an artist and not being able to play in front of people. So luckily for technology, it's like the stuff that I yell at my kids about getting off, we were able to use and connect with people. So, during that downtime, I was really prolific because you'd end up calling a buddy and you'd write a song over Zoom. And, that's how, When This Is Over came about.
Mm-hmm. Great song.
Thank you. Right in the middle of, all this crazy shit happening, stuff that you never thought would happen. It's like all of a sudden we entered this apocalyptic zombie type of movie, all of us. And it's like, what do we do? So, we leaned on streaming, we leaned on connecting via Facebook and Zoom and texting. And, I ended up writing a bunch of stuff and put some stuff out. And that was kind of romantic and kind of cool for a while, but that gets old real quick. As an artist, you want to be in front of people. So when Sheboygan asked us to play, we were like, is it the right thing to do? Because I truly believe that, I'm a man of science. That's what I studied. So I felt that maybe, we shouldn't be doing it. But the Weil Center was so on top of safety
mm-hmm.
and distancing, and they assured us that it would be a show that everybody could enjoy, and it would be in a very safe and protected environment, which it was. And it's a beautiful old theater. It seats like 1,200 or so, and
yeah, it was a great venue for sure.
Yeah, and they let 200 people in, which I think we had, and it felt good to be on stage, connecting with people and hearing people singing and hearing people clapping. It sounded like there was 1,000 people there, and it felt good.
Molly and I were clapping twice as hard. That's why.
It was you too.
Yeah, right.
It's always you, Mike.
but that kind of leads to the next question. Obviously, have a very strong Wisconsin fan base that has continued to come to the shows, support the Gufs for like I said, for 3 decades. It's such a strong fan base, and when you go out there and you talk to other people at the shows, you talk to people on the street, or you bring up the Gufs, there's not this fair weather fan. There's these people that know every song, every album, every lyric that you've ever written. I mean, what's your response to that? I mean, it's such a huge movement that it's crazy, and pretty much why we're doing this right now.
When I look back at when this all started, the reason we got to where, we got with getting signed to Atlantic Records and and kind of touring and having this be our lives is because of you all. For some reason, it just connected, and you all embraced us, and you took us to another level. And it's crazy to me over the years that I see a lot of the familiar faces, and now I see it's become generational.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of the kids coming, and I've said it's like it's you guys aren't fans. You guys have become friends, and there's a lot of you that I know, and a lot of you that I look forward to seeing. And there's no better fans than fans from Wisconsin. I mean, look at how you guys have embraced all things Wisconsin. And it's like when you guys when you guys love something, you love it hard. And we got lucky that we ended up, in Wisconsin, because that was all accidental. I went up there on a scholarship to play soccer, and when I was looking back at how that all came to be, for some reason, back when I was getting recruited by UW Milwaukee, they all thought that I was a year older. So I remember picking Milwaukee, and then a few months later, North Carolina and Virginia, which were big soccer schools, all of a sudden, like, hey, we want you to come. And I'm like, hold on a second, I'm not a junior, I'm a senior, so I've already gone. Like, I've already committed. And it's crazy for me to think that if that didn't happen, there wouldn't be a Gufs, and we wouldn't be talking right now. So it's kind of, I don't believe in a lot of things. I believe in fate. Things happen for a reason, and something brought me up there. And what's the chances of me going up there and then I'm rooming with Scotty, our drummer, who's a drummer and loves all the same type of music that I do. And at that time, Milwaukee had such a cool scene. So it just happened. It was luck. And then it was being embraced by, people like you, and you guys still come to the shows and you still care, which blows my mind. So we'll keep doing it as long as you guys want to keep coming. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for embracing us the way that you have.
Well, we thank you as well. And I think there was a Facebook post I saw a while back. It said all things Wisconsin, things. It was a checklist you had to do as far as what you needed to do to be considered a true Wisconsinite. And one of the things they left off was attend a Gufs Summerfest concert. I submitted that. I'm still working on it, but I think that's one of the true things you need to do to actually be considered from Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. But tying into that, have there been other areas? I know one of the very early shows, well, in my time frame, I saw you guys in Des Moines, Iowa at the Super Toad.
Mm-hmm.
You pulled a picture of you and I there, and I was going to bring it tonight, but I didn't want to embarrass you or myself because I didn't look very good. I believe I sent that to you at some point. But have there been other areas throughout the country, during especially the Atlantic days, that you at least experienced somewhat of the same thing? I'm trying to give a heads up here to our Wisconsin fans that we're the best, but I mean, has there been? I have to imagine there's been other places you've been well received.
Yeah. So as we started touring, and expanding, kind of grassrootsy, just pile into a van and keep moving out farther away from Milwaukee. Chicago was a huge place for us. And I remember, a highlight of our career, our young career, was, playing the Metro, which was a venue down in Chicago that I remember seeing bands like, Radiohead and Toad the Wet Sprocket and all these great bands. And it's like, wow, we're actually on the same stage that these guys are. And, the farther we kind of got away from Milwaukee, the less of a crowd we'd have. But, we'd go to Des Moines and Iowa City and do well. And we'd go to Minneapolis and play the Fine Line and do well. And we'd go out to Grand Rapids and do well in Indianapolis. So I remember a rock and roll moment for us was we got signed and we're heading down to Springfield, Missouri, and they started playing Smile on the radio, and we had a a sold out show in a town we've never been to. And it's kind of like, it's cool. It's like these people, like, we don't know them and they just know us by a song. And all of a sudden we're walking through the parking lot to get to the stage and there's fans kind of cheering and screaming. And it's like, for a second, I felt like the Beatles, you know? But no, and then the farther we got away from the Midwest, it was, it got a little bit tougher because at that we didn't have the support from the label, which maybe we can get into.
We'll get into that down the road. I think I have a whole episode on that one. So, yeah. But as a Wisconsinite, I can't thank you enough for sticking with us, and I hope that these shows and showing up have shown you, even just like we talked about the Wild Center, people still want to see the Gufs. I mean, it's still a crazy phenomena. I mean, it's one of these things that it's like you guys are right up there with the Femmes, Bodines, the Packers, the Brewers. I mean, it's as you said earlier, we value what we have that comes from our state, and so as I said, I can't thank you enough for that. But if I could tease all the fellow listeners out there, is there a new album potentially on the horizon?
I don't know if there's a new album, but there's going to be singles coming because it seems like that's the easier way to put music out nowadays.
Yeah.
And, we did Hero, via email and text and just sending ideas. And it was an idea that I had, and it felt way more Gufs than it felt, Goran, and sent it to Dan, and Dan loved it, and we hashed it out one night, and then sent it to Morgan, and then he came up with this great guitar riff, and then we sent it to Scott, and ended up having Scott Starr from Fever Marlene, another great Milwaukee band, produce it. And what I liked about that whole experience was that it's not, the four of us in a room creating, so it kind of came out a lot differently than it might have if we were in a room. And I love the fact that Scott Starr kind of put his imprint on it, because he made it like when you listen to it, you hear the Gufs, but it doesn't sound like the Gufs from 1997. It sounds like the Gufs in 2020, which is what we wanted to do. We didn't want to put out a rehashed version of Crash or something like that. So we wanted something cool.
And that was another. I wanted to segue right into Hero with this, but you touched on a part that I can't avoid. One of my notes here was specifically that was the evolution of your music, and you look at from Staring Into the Sun all the way through it in Circa 89, all the way to A Different Sea, and there is such a different feel on each album.
Yeah,
and I truly feel I'm not making this an opinion piece, but I think that is what brings us back for more. Just the fact that you're always evolving. It's especially Hero. Hero is Guf's material true and through, but it's a different sound. It's an evolved sound, which is, I think, is interesting to hear. So why ask if there's a new album coming? Because if that was a teaser, could I get an advanced copy?
Well, we're working on the next song, so we have tracks already that we're laying down for a new song called One, and a lot of the new stuff is social commentary and kind of how we feel about living in probably the shittiest year of my life,
Understand.
probably for a lot of people's lives. Just 2020 needs to go away, so it's been kind of interesting time to be writing and being an artist. And as an artist, you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to your fans to write about the good stuff and the bad stuff. And this has been kind of a eye-opening year.
It sure has. And we talked about the name Circa 2020 because I thought there'd be a negative connotation, but I figured it would give us time to lead this into 2021 so we could kind of move it around. But with that comment, if I think it's a good time, if you're ready to play Hero, we'd love to hear it.
Sure, I'll play it. step away from finally losing faith in yourself. And I can tell you're hiding on the pain, 'cause it's hard for you to ask for a little help. But don't be afraid to shout, scream out loud from the mountaintops whenever you need me near. 'Cause I can be the answer if I hear you call. I can be the shoulder you lean on if you fall. I can hold you if you're spinning out of control. I could save the day and be your hero. Oh, I can be a hero. I've been to all the lonely places that you now find yourself in. From the bottom of the bottle to the darkest days I never wanted them. Everybody comes undone, you're not the only one. I've been where you've been, so I can be the answer if I hear you call. I can be the shoulder you lean on if you fall. I can hold you if you're spinning out of control. I could save the day and be your hero. Oh, I can be your hero. Oh, I can be your hero. When you're down low, let me help you lift your soul. 'Cause I can be the answer if I hear you call. I can be the shoulder you lean on if you fall. I can hold you if you're spinning out of control. I can save the day and be your hero. I can be the answer if I hear you call. I can be the shoulder you lean on if you fall. I can hold you if you're spinning out of control. I can save the day and be your hero. Oh, be your hero. Oh, be your hero. Oh, be your hero.
I'd clap into the mic, but it'd be too loud.
That's okay.
No, that was fantastic. Thank you for that. A little speechless right now. Anyway,
Yeah, you told me the other day that you were a fanboy.
I was a fanboy and still am. So I've had to work up a lot of nerve for this first episode here. So
I think you're doing great.
I'm trying. You know, at least it's warmer. When we had our little test run last week, it was like cold in here, so I'm just literally shaking. But no, that was fantastic.
Thanks. You know, you were saying, you know, before we kind of, you know, creeped onto this song, just the style and how it's changed. And when I look back at some of the old songs, you know, I can see why people liked it, but it's not very good. You know, like when I listened to it, it captured a really cool moment. And it was charming. It was innocent. When I look back at some of the lyrics, I don't know what the fuck I was talking about. Because, you know, when you're 20, you haven't lived life. So a lot of that Staring into the Sun record, and, you know, it's like you're 20, you're playing soccer, you're hanging out, drinking beer, talking to girls, and what have you haven't had heartbreak, you haven't had much devastation. And so a lot of that early stuff was, you know, inspiration from maybe classes that I was taking, and you know, things that I was learning from some teachers. And um, you grow and you evolve. And Songs of Life, I think, is one of the coolest records, and you can tell we're starting to get songwriting a little bit. You can tell we're expanding our stories. And then as we get Circa, which we'll talk about, but Circa 89 was just a rehash of all the stuff that didn't make the Staring at the Sun record. And then when we put out the Gufs Collide, it's like, okay, now we've lived a little bit, and now we're getting songwriting, and there's been some pain, and there's been some heartache, and now we're getting ready to get a deal. And so as I listen to the evolution of the music, and I listen to how we're writing now, songwriting is a craft, and you learn things. And as you go from record to record to record, you hope that you're evolving, you hope that you're inspiring, and you hope you're telling stories that people can connect to. And I think we started doing that, where Holiday from You connected to the heart, and maybe to a broken heart, and A Different Sea maybe connected to a heart that was healing and feeling good. And the new stuff is it's fun watching it evolve. But if I'm going to listen to Guf's music, there's no way in hell I'm listening to Staring at the Sun, because I can't listen to my voice at all.
You still owe me a copy of that, by the way, because
I got. Hey, check this out. I got it right here for you.
I'll take the train down tomorrow and pick it up.
Okay, I'll sign it for you.
But not to prolong the point, but there's been serious jumps within your music. I would say Songs of Life, Circa 89, and then from that to Collide, I think is a huge jump. I think as far as sound, I think as far as Morgan coming along, and as far as his sound, it's exponential between Circa 89 and Collide. I mean, I don't know if you agree, but
I totally agree. I think we found a distortion pedal in the power of grunge rock.
Yeah, they're like $70 out of Musician's Friend, I think. So if I would have known at that time, I would have sent you one. But anyway, but no, I think this is been good. We've covered just the basic history, a nice intro, what you guys have been up to. Appreciate your time. We're obviously going to expand this from here on out. We're going to look at each album and kind of move on from there. So as we move along, if there's something that you see, a question you have for the band, comment on our Facebook page. We've been sending that out shortly. Things are starting to pick up steam. We also do have an email. It's the Gufs Circa 2020@gmail.com. You can also reach us there. Anything you want to know, it's an open book. Goran says open the song catalog. We're going to play a song here each episode. When I say we, I mean Goran, obviously. You don't want to hear me sing or play guitar, even though I've tried. But tune in for further episodes, and we thank you for joining us today, and look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, man.